Okay, we're back with part 2. So, after they had pulled out the brains and the intestines and all the insides and put them into jars, they covered Tut's altered corpse with natron, which is salt-like stuff, and put it on a slanted board with grooves in it so his bodily fluids flowed directly into a tub at the end. What are bodily fluids?
The body's fluids.
Blood, water, all the ooey gooey stuff. Okay.
Yeah, the body's fluids.
Very good. His gutted body was completely dried, which was especially difficult considering the human body is 75% water. They stuffed his chest with wads of cloth to soak up the inside juice. This is gross. Every weensy drop of blood, rag, and leftover bit of Tut was saved and crammed into big jars for him to take along for his next excellent adventure.
You asked me to choose. I don't know why, but you did.
You picked this one. Tut's cadaver gave new meaning to the word stiff and sticky. That's a good one. Don't bite your nails.
Dang it.
So it was smeared with scented goo to make it smell better and to make it feel less like Tut jerky. Then, to make him look like a real mummy and to keep him from falling apart during a ceremony when a priest stood him up and offered him grapes, Tut's pruned corpse was encased with half a football field worth of fabric strips, spun around his body like cotton candy, along with 143 charms woven in for good luck. To seal everything, they poured warmed plant resin, which is sap, all over Tut's wrapped body. Think super glue. All right, so that's interesting. They totally wrapped him up. It took out half a football field worth of fabric. That's a lot of fabric.
It's 50 yards.
Okay, that's a good job. Meanwhile, servants picked up a few of his kingly things from the palace, including a couple of thrones, 2 slingshots, 2 jars of honey, 6 chariots, 30 golden statues, 35 model boats, 130 walking sticks, 427 arrows, and lots of sandals. And a partridge in a pear tree. No. When Tut died, no one in Egypt had built a pyramid for a dead king for 200 years because tomb raiders had trashed every single one of them, taking everything, including the mummies. Tomb raiders took off with the motherlode of ancient Egyptian history. What did you want to add?
I mean, it says in the book, but can I say it?
Sure.
So instead of putting them into a pyramid, because like it's pretty much like here's gold for like robbers and stuff, they put them under mountains and called the Valley of the Kings.
All right, and that leads us next to going on. So they buried Tut in a tomb hidden under a sand dune in the middle of the desert known as the Valley of the Kings. And there he rested undisturbed for 3,000 years. So did their plan work?
Yes.
For 3,000 years.
Yeah, like.
In 1922, Howard Carter, an English guy who had been digging around the valley for 20 years, found Tut's intact tomb under 1 trillion grains of sand. Carter took 10 years to pick through Tut's personal things and divvy them up to museums all over the world. The Egyptians told Carter, "Go home already." But first, Carter and his team did an autopsy.
What does that mean?
We will find out.
Autopsy.
It was hard to do because Tut was super glued to the bottom of his coffin, and his famous gold mask was attached to his head. Carter managed to figure out Tut had been a teenager when he died because his teeth hadn't all come in yet, and his leg bones weren't fully developed. So poor kid, he never even got a chance to fully become a man.
Or get married.
Well, we don't know about that. He did get married.
Oh yeah, he did get married.
Ooh, that might be a bonus question. Who did he marry and how old was he? King Tut was returned to his sarcophagus and went nighty-night back in his tomb in the Valley of the Kings for about 40 more years.
40, what?
40 more years.
And
they put him back in his tomb and didn't touch him again. In 1968, experts x-rayed Tut's mummy to figure out how he had died. They noticed Tut's breastbone, genitals, 1 thumb, and a few ribs were missing. The x-rays also showed that his vertebrae were fused together and his skull was misshapen. They analyzed the facts and announced King Tut was murdered!
What?
Dun, dun, dun! Tut stayed put for 10 more years until scientists removed him from his stone box again in 1978. He was still dead. They took more x-rays but never published their findings. And from a bone sample, they analyzed his blood. Tut's blood types were A2 and MN.